السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Let me start by a disclaimer that I just made in the previous lecture. I do not commentate on the Syrian TV anymore. Since the start of the Syrian revolution, I have no connection with the Syrian TV nor the Syrian regime or anyone or any brutal dictator that kills his people. And if we stand for justice in Palestine, we will stand for justice in Syria, in Libya, in Egypt, in Yemen, and everywhere. So we're not going to support a brutal dictator at the expense of his people just because he utters the word Palestine. That's my first disclaimer. The second disclaimer, I'm not responsible for this bio that the sister just read to you. Now, I know that we don't have much time. Also, I understand that the majority of us here know or are aware of the fact that so many people, including Palestinians and Arabs, will question the rationale, the logic of the title of this lecture, Gaza Kept the Palestinian Cause Alive. For those people, you will find them divided into two groups. One group is a group that has resigned to the notion that it is hopeless, that Israel cannot be defeated, that the Palestinians will never restore their just rights, and Palestine will never see a day of freedom. For the second group, it is mostly constituted of regimes, those who are more of collaborators with the occupation and the colonial powers, those who want to drive us to the point where we will believe that it is impossible to change the status quo. It is impossible to change the dynamics in that part of the world that is referred to as the Middle East, which is by itself a colonial term, because that is the heart of the Arab world. Now, for the two groups, they will agree on the justification of their logic. They will tell you, just look at the human cost, the tremendous human cost that the Palestinian people paid in Gaza. More than 2,200 people were killed. 81% of them are civilians. The majority are women and children. More than 12,000 people were injured. Again, the majority are women and children. And the overwhelming majority are civilians. More than 300 or 3,300 of them are children. More than 2,000 of them are women. More than 1,000 children who were injured are left with a permanent disability. They will tell you, look at the devastation that Israel inflicted on the Palestinian people in Gaza. More than 60,000 house units were destroyed. Of them, about 20,000 units are either totally destroyed or destroyed to a point where the people cannot live people cannot live in them anymore. They will tell you, look at the huge devastation that Israel caused to the Gazan infrastructure that never existed. So they will tell you, was it really worth it for the Palestinian? Well, the problem with this logic is that it embarks from a false notion. It assumes that it is the Palestinians, it is the Gazans, it is the resistant that who called for this aggression on Gaza. They want to blame the victim instead of the aggressor. So we should not endorse this logic. Was it worth it or not? As if it was in our hands, as if we called for it, as if we asked Israel to destroy and to kill and to maim Palestinians. What we need to keep in mind is that the root cause of the problem is occupation. It didn't start with the resistant, because you will not have a resistant, you wouldn't have a resistant if there was no occupation. It all started with the occupation. It all started because the Palestinians, for 66 years now and more, since the British occupation, British forces occupied Palestine in 1917, the Palestinians have been deprived from their basic rights. They have been deprived from their sense of belonging. Ask any Palestinian, what is your nationality? I'm a Palestinian. Who does recognize and who recognizes the Palestinian nationality today? I myself was born outside of Palestine. I hold the Jordanian citizenship. But also I have a connection to the lands of my ancestors and to the land of my parents and grandparents. But I cannot utilize that sense of belonging. I cannot express it. And the majority of us, especially mainly the Palestinians, cannot realize their sense of belonging. So it didn't start with us. We didn't call for a state of Israel to be created in the land of Palestine at the expense of the indigenous people who had nothing to do with the crimes that were committed against the Jews in Europe. So again, it started with the occupation. And it didn't start because the Palestinians are even pushing back or fighting back. Let's look at the previous experiences. Let's look at different stages in our history. Let's start from the recent history. Since 1991 till today, the Palestinians have been engaged in a so-called peace process with the State of Israel. What have we accomplished? Since 1993, the Palestinians, or the official leader of the PLO, signed the Oslo Accords that promised the Palestinian states in 5 years from that day. Where is the Palestinian state today? Since 1994 till today, there is a so-called Palestinian Authority in the West Bank and to some extent in Gaza. And from 1994 to 2000, the security apparatus, Palestinian security apparatuses were in total control. And since 1996, there was not even a major Palestinian attack because the PA did a great job in suppressing the resistant movements. What did the Palestinians accomplish? What did Yasser Arafat, the late Palestinian president, accomplish? He was assassinated by Israel. So if you think that the problem is with Gaza or within Gaza, then you're mistaken. Why the colonization of the West Bank and Jerusalem still continues until today? They're offering only 42% of the entire West Bank to the Palestinian as a state. And it's not contiguous. Mahmoud Abbas is being referred to, the president of the PA is being referred to as a partner in peace by our own President Barack Obama. In his Bloomberg View interview in March of this year, before he met with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he told him, or he encouraged him to seize the opportunity because Mahmoud Abbas is the best partner that you can have. And he encouraged him to take advantage of the setbacks in the Arab revolutions in the Arab world and of the new regimes who are allying themselves with Israel against the Palestinians and against the aspirations of the Arab people and the Palestinian people. Kerry warned Israel that it's becoming more of an apartheid state. And still the Israelis refuse to accept any call for a so-called peace. Just a few weeks ago, they killed a leader of Fatah, a minister in the government in the West Bank, a Palestinian minister, Ziad Abu Ain. Ziad Abu Ain wasn't engaged in a violent resistance. Ziad Abu Ain was there to protest against the separation wall. He was there to plant olive trees. But yet he was assassinated by the Israeli soldiers. So if the West Bank is under if the West Bank is under the control of a proxy of the State of Israel today, in the name of a Palestinian authority, why then the Palestinians are not giving their rights or their rights to be restored yet in the West Bank? It is again because it's not about the Palestinians. According to the leadership of the PLO and the PA, they have accepted less than 20%, less than 16%, less than 12% of the historical Palestine. Yet the State of Israel says we cannot accept that. We cannot accept that. So again, the problem should not be seen as a Palestinian problem. The aggression should not be read or interpreted in the context of a resistance. It should be always referred to the occupation, to the root cause of the problem. Because this occupation does not recognize the Palestinian people as humans who deserve to have their own, to have human rights, not only national rights. That's why we've seen this aggression after aggression after aggression against the Palestinian people and on the Palestinian people. That's why we've seen the problems that keep popping up, all of the onslaughts and the bloodshed that we keep seeing day and day again, because again, they will never recognize the Palestinian rights. They would never accept that the Palestinians deserve to live in freedom. Again, take another look at Gaza. Gaza has been under a brutal siege, a brutal blockade for more than 7.5 years now. What was the crime of the Gazan people? That they have casted their vote, the Palestinian people casted their vote, elected a government that we don't like, elected a party that we don't accept. Well, the Israeli people elected Benjamin Netanyahu, who is not liked by our own administration. Why not then put a siege against the State of Israel? Why not then stop our foreign aid to the State of Israel? Why not then punish the State of Israel because its own prime minister and its own government put down and insult our own president and our own administration and our own elected officials? But again, because unfortunately, people here don't want to see, or our elected officials and our administration don't want to see or don't want to be, to take a firm stand against what they themselves call Israeli misguided policies. So Gaza has been under a blockade for more than 7.5 years just because they casted their vote, just because they wanted to exercise their freedom of expression. People are being put on a diet. According to the IDF, or the Israeli so-called Defense Forces report that was issued in 2010 by the order of the Israeli court, that they count the calories that every Palestinian individual in Gaza is allowed to consume, about 2,227 calories per day, to make sure that they won't die from starvation, nor that they will enjoy their lives. But again, they still, they still blame the Palestinian people whose movement has been restricted, who live in the largest open air prison, the people who are treated less than animals. So if we want to understand what exactly happened, what really happened there, we need to read it in a broader context, in a broader framework. We need to remember that the Palestinians for the past 66 years have no rights. And despite all of the brutality of the State of Israel, for the past 66 years, the Palestinians still, until today, refuse to call it a surrender. The Palestinians, until today, they refuse to quit. The Palestinian, until today, they refuse to declare a defeat. The Palestinian, until today, they still say, we're here, we existed here, we still exist here, and we will continue to exist here. That's what drives Israel's menace. That's what drives Israel's brutality, because that is being translated in the Israeli set of mind as an existential dilemma for them. because they cannot get the victim of their thievery to endorse and to accept the narrative of the aggressor. We are still standing today and say that we are Palestinians. That's what drives their menace. That's what drives them crazy, because we refuse to be defeated. Even though, while we're seeing today the collaboration between some Arab regimes who have, and whose cause or whose main mission today to assassinate the aspirations of the Arab people to gain freedom and to live in dignity. Even with the Egyptian regime under the coup, establishing a more brutal siege on Gaza, more than it was under the Mubarak regime. Even that we know now, according to our own Secretary of State, John Kerry, who said in the Saban Center just a few weeks ago that some Arab nations have told the United States privately that they are willing to join the war with Israel against so-called Hamas, because for me it's not against Hamas, it is against the Palestinian people. And still the Palestinian people refuse to surrender and to give up. The odds are against them. The odds are against the cause of the Palestinian people. But they still say, even if you have proxy regimes, even if you continue your colonization, even if you have the support of the entire colonial powers, we will still stand tall and we will still call ourselves Palestinians. That's why they're not defeated until today. That's why they're not defeated. And the whole world now sees the brutality of Israel. The whole world now understands that the real threat to stability, to security, to the peace, to the world peace order is the state of Israel. It's not the Palestinians. And that again drives the menace of the Israeli government and the Israeli army. Because again, the Zionists cannot comprehend that still after 67 years of inflicting defeats on Arab regimes, after 67 years of inflicting a devastation after a devastation on the Palestinian people, and the Palestinian people are still standing tall. And when they look at Gaza today and they compare it to what happened 50 years ago, 60 years ago, to what happened 27 years ago in the first Intifada, to what happened in 2000 in the second Intifada, to what happened to the resistance that the Palestinians showed in 2008 and 2009 and 2012, they see that the Palestinian resistance is progressing, that the people of Palestine, although they're suffering a lot, but they're still fighting back, and they're still saying that we will never be defeated. That's what, again, is driving their menace. You know, I will conclude with this. I myself was raised as a Jordanian, and I'm proud of my Jordanian citizenship. And I never was raised as a Palestinian. It wasn't until the first Intifada in 1987, December 1987, when I discovered my roots as a Palestinian. When I committed my life for a cause that relates to me as a Palestinian, of course as an Arab and a Muslim and a man of conscience as well. You know, it was the Intifada that revived the generation. Then it was the second Intifada that revived the second generation in 2000. And then it was the first brutal aggression on Gaza in 2008, 2009, that revived the third generation. The same thing with the aggression in 2012 and 2014. I have 3 daughters who now know that they're Palestinians, who now commit their life for Palestine because they knew of Palestine because of the Israeli atrocities in Palestine. It is your generation. You know, when last night, I saw little kids playing, and I asked them, where are you from? And one of them said, my name is Musa, I'm from Turmus Aya. He's only about 7, 8 years old. We, the Palestinians, are not defeated. We will never be defeated. We will continue to pass down this torch of freedom until we restore justice in Palestine, until Palestine is free, and Palestine will be free. That's what they have done in their latest aggression on Gaza. That's why we say that Gaza, yes, teaches us life, that Gaza kept the Palestinian cause alive, because you have killed 200 or 2,200 people. You have injured more than 12,000 people, but you have revived millions and millions and millions of Palestinians, of Arabs, and of people of conscience who say that Palestine will be the embodiment of justice when this world will gain its conscience. And we, the Palestinians, until then, until achieving that goal, we will never give up. We will never surrender. We will never say that we're defeated. We will continue to show you our resilience and our resentment and our defiance, because we believe justice ultimately will prevail. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. One last thing, I apologize. As the sister introduced me by saying that I am a member or a board member of the American Muslims for Palestine. We have a booth outside this hall. I think it's not to the right. Please go to our booth, especially the youth. Go to our booth. Register yourself as a volunteer. Help us, inshallah, to maintain this cause, to keep it alive, to keep it afloat. Without you, we cannot do it. Go to our booth or come to us and tell us that you want to serve and to help. Make sure that you embody this just cause, and make sure that you serve it. Come to our booth, come to this organization. Let us, inshallah, make the Palestinian cause in this country a success story, because eventually it's going to happen, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.